sanity appears to have partially prevailed in the UK, at least at that state level. But there's Twitter, shock horror. I'm surprised, got a bit agitated about the whole thing. J.K. Rowling and others. J.K. Rowling did her whole what's been going on in as the Twitterati have got to it? What sort of responses have we seen around the debate?
So what you've got the political, medical, scientific issue, and on the other hand, you've got this 500-pound gorilla called culture and the culture wars. And you've got J.K. Rowling, who's got enough money to say whatever she likes. She probably burns money to keep her Scottish castle warm. And she's saying, see, I told you, and you, Daniel Radcliffe and you fellow Hogwartian actors, you will apologise to me eventually when you see the train wreck that happens to young people. And of course, there's a pile on Twitter from people saying, leave trans people alone, you're hateful. And the question isn't around hate, though I don't think that I would come out as narky, I think, towards people in the same way that she does. She can be. It wasn't a
precision response for her, was it? I mean, she did the blunderbuss scatter approach.
And I just don't think I just don't. I think you've got to be careful in that territory. But she's, there's such a thing as a graceless winner at times, right? And perhaps she's being a little bit that, because I would want to say, let's be very careful how we treat other human beings. And she isn't the friend of Christians because she just knocks Genesis 1 and 2 out of the park as well and says it's not how women are to be understood either. Well, we believe it is. So I'd be very careful. But at the same time, there's pushback and hate towards her from the cultural framework that sees the trans issue is a way to self-identify and loose yourself from the surly bonds of your own physicality and be who you really think you are. And that will take a lot longer to untangle than a scientific framework that says we're not going to give drugs. People are going to get those drugs online anyway.
The shifting of those cultural foundations as those moorings, that's already happened. This is perhaps reflecting on the fact that maybe it's all gone a bit wrong. But not here in Australia. So here in Australia, it took the press a number of days to even report on this, and that's fascinating in and of itself. Could we expect maybe to see some shifting here in Australia? Could we see a hitting of the brakes on these things? And if not, why not?
Well, between the two countries we're in, the Australian and New Zealand Royal Society of Psychiatrists has already said put the brakes on. And psychologists are starting to say we don't want to see young trans patients. Interesting. Because they're saying we don't want to get sued either way. We don't want to be hassled by the psychological board, who is very affirming, and we don't want to be sued by parents or medical practitioners down the line or young people. So what you end up getting is that young people who perhaps have a whole spectrum of other issues, including autism issue coming to the surface, are not going to be seen by clinicians because of this ideological push, because clinicians were afraid to take them on. And that's a travesty that ideologues would use young people for their own cause and then not see through their actual medical conditions. Absolute travesty. So perhaps I'm getting a bit like J.K. Rowling and I need a billion-seller book to be able to protect myself from what I really feel.
Possibly. It just occurs to me as we were talking, we do ultimately have an evidence-based approach here in Australia, don't we?
Yes.
Not the evidence of the research, it's the evidence of the legal fees that people can now see coming if they get this wrong. So money talks over and above the research.
The actuaries in the health system say the bottom line is your finances. They're the ones calling the shots for the health department over the next 20 years on this one.
That's right. And sadly, that has lagged far too long behind for many people who've been hurt by this process. Maybe we'll see a shift when the debate happens. Make sure you're part of it.